Pulse's graduate lecture. I'm Professor Edward Peck. I'm Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the University and head of the College of Social Sciences. And it's in the College of Social Sciences that Pulse's is located. And I was really pleased to be asked to introduce this lecture, and even more pleased, I just heard from Dr. Erekat. He's flown in specially from Palestine to give this lecture, for personal reasons that he might explain in a second. And it's his first time in Birmingham, so I think that's also a real treat to have him here. And each year, Pulse's arranges a graduate lecture, which brings a prominent member of government or global civil society to the campus to interact with postgraduate students and give them an insight into critical current events. And I don't think you can imagine much more critical current event than negotiating with the Palestinians and the Israelis over the peace process in the Middle East. And why I'm so pleased to host this lecture is I think this approach, this sort of lecture, just confirms the combination that Pulse's brings to the college of theoretical rigour, but real engagement with the national and international political issues that we face. And that's what makes Pulse's one of the best departments of its kind in the UK and in the world. So I was really pleased to introduce this lecture and to welcome our guest. I know some of you have come some distance to hear this lecture, not as far perhaps as from Palestine, but certainly from Durham. I hear someone came down especially to hear this lecture, so you're very welcome. Thank you. To Birmingham to hear this lecture. I do think this is a very special event. Many of you will know Dr. Saeb Erekat because he has for 2 decades been at the centre of perhaps the most important, certainly the most delicate, difficult set of negotiations in world politics. He hasn't got the most inspiring official title, and he's head of the Palestinian Steering and Monitoring Committee of the Negotiation Affairs Department. What it means is he leads the Palestinian negotiations with the Israelis. And has done that, I think, since January of this year. But for over 20 years, he's been involved in all negotiations with the Israelis, and I think can offer unparalleled perspective, both on the peace process, but also the work of a diplomat in negotiations of the highest global importance. He received a BA and MA in political science at the University of San Francisco and a PhD in peace studies from the University of Bradford here in the UK. He was a lecturer on political science at Ahmad University in Nablus and is an author of numerous works on conflict resolution, the politics of oil, and the democratisation in the Middle East. Before he starts his lecture, I just want to reflect a little on Birmingham as an international university which takes international politics extremely seriously and recognises that with our reputation and our reach, we need to give a space for the free speech and for the exploration of different ideas, such as we may hear this afternoon. And with the bounds of legality and decency, which Dr. Erekat will respect, I uphold absolutely his right to make any observation or analysis he wishes to make. There may be those in the audience who don't agree with all that analysis and may want to challenge and make points that differ from his analysis or his perspective. You have every right to do so, as long as you give Dr. Erekat, I think, the courtesy that a guest at the University of Birmingham would expect. So, in that spirit, I'm delighted to invite Dr. Erekat to give his lecture, The Peace Process, Where To. Dr. Erekat.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Asaf. It was your efforts that brought me here. And I hope that Michael is here, Michael Abu Zuluf. He is a student here. And he brought me here. And thank you, Michael. I worked for Michael's. Raise your hand, Michael. I began about 30 years ago as a finished my master's, went back to Jerusalem. I worked for his grandfather, who introduced me to life and made me the editor of the Al-Quds newspaper at that time. And when Michael asked me to come and lecture, I couldn't say no. It's just, sincerely, I'm honored to see you here and to see all your colleagues around you. And I'm really privileged to be in Birmingham. And 24 hours, leaving tomorrow morning to attend the Arab Summit in Libya. Yesterday I was with Senator Mitchell, but this is for me rather very, very important. I'll begin by saying, since the year 1683, That is 1683. Arab-Western relations have not been defined. And I believe it's time for you, your class, those who are interested in international politics, political science, conflict resolution, to begin a process of trying to define these relations. In the year 1683, a small town in Europe was sieged by Muslim soldiers, the Ottomans, Vienna. And ever since that time, in my opinion, these Arab-Western relations, and to a larger extent, Muslim-Western relations have not been defined. It's a relation of suspicion, fear, variables of complexities. Anyone who raises his head in our Middle East, that's where we see things, must be brought down. And I really want to see that our mutual matrix of interest will mature to the extent whereby defining these relationships would be the common ground for better relations in all spheres. We try our best, and I believe at the heart of defining these relationships is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And ever since Eve negotiated Adam, I'm the most disadvantaged negotiator in the history of mankind. I have no army, no navy, no air force, no economy. My people are fragmented. And if it's my word against any Israeli, the Congress, the Senate, maybe in the parliament, I don't stand a chance. I don't. And I don't believe that life is about fairness and justice. Trying my best to make peace. And I did not wake up one morning and felt my conscience aching for the suffering of the Jews and the Israelis that I sit with them and negotiate with them. I'm doing it because it's my interest. I'm doing it because I don't want my son, Ali, to be a suicide bomber. I just want him to be like you, just like any of you. I'll give him a chance. So when I sit with the Israelis, I'm doing myself the favor. And I really pray and hope that they would recognize also that they did not wake up one morning and feel their conscience aching for my suffering, that they sit with me. And they're not doing me a favor also. They're doing themselves the favor. Because at the end of the day, conflict, as you studied and you will study, has been with us since we've been here. And it all depends on the maturity of the matrix of interest between these conflicting parties. And once any conflicting party or conflicting parties would realize that the price of war and conflict is much higher than the price of peace, they will have peace. Palestinians and Israelis are not better than anybody else. We're different. Unlike the Balkans, unlike Peru, Ecuador, unlike Kashmir, unlike many, many conflicts, we're different. We're different because there have been people in my neighborhood that have been going to synagogues for 5,700 years, saying the same thing, literally the same thing every Saturday. And they believe every Saturday that they're saying it and hearing it for the first time. And next to them, there have been people ringing bells and going to churches every Sunday for 2,000 years, also saying the same thing every Sunday, hearing it and feeling that they're saying it for the first time. And the same thing is applicable for 1,430 years in the mosques every Friday. I know that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are great religions. Human lives and human values is the most important concept in these religions. But today, and unfortunately, much of the preaching against peace comes from places of worship